Well, the Saints sweat their way through a Sunday here at the Oshner Sports Performance Center. And with John DeShazier, I'm Sean Kelley, all set to go for another edition of the Saints Training Camp Report. Hi again, everybody. It was warmer today on this Sunday as the Saints practiced in full pads outside, John. Really going the entire time frame that is normally scheduled for a weekend practice.
Well, it begins to become a test of wills when you're out here in this kind of weather. You know these guys want to be properly hydrated. They want to have the proper recovery. But man, it's hot, and it's a test, especially to those big guys who sweat a whole lot more than those smaller guys.
Head coach Sean Payton was pleased with the practice today. He says his guys handled the heat well, is what it was, what he calls, John, an A schedule. Coach Payton said he wanted to have the tempo as close to what they see on a game day as they could replicate here in practice.
Well, and I thought we saw some of that. We saw some of that in the run drills where, it was pretty much thud and they wanted to keep people up, but somehow or another they ended up on the ground a couple of times. But I thought we saw so in the pass plays too. I just think this team is becoming more and more competitive as the days progress. Again, you want to simulate the game action as much as you possibly can, because when you get out there, you don't want it to be a surprise to you.
Coach Payton also announced some roster transactions on this Sunday. John, it's kind of down near the bottom third of the roster, but there were a couple of guys brought in and consequently some guys let go.
Yeah, let go of Devontae Harris and Trevor Darling, both cornerbacks, defensive backs, and brought in another couple of defensive backs, Robert Nelson Jr. as well as Marcus Williams. Not the other Marcus Williams, number 43 for the Saints, but another Marcus Williams who has played in the NFL, played lately, I think, of the Jets. And so now we have a couple of Marcus Williams to confuse, I guess.
Yes, to confuse. We had some good news on the injury front today. A couple of guys continue to make their way back to full participation, while others are still working off to the side. Obviously off to the side still is Tommy Lee Lewis, who was hurt at the practice at Tulane. That was 1 week ago today, but he was back on the practice field today working on his rehab off to the side. Still no signs of Marcus Davenport at this point. That'd be a notable, obviously. But we did see Andrus Peat, John, working more in full team periods. He had been working individual periods here of late, but it was good to see him in those 11-on-11 sessions during practice.
Yeah, they're easing him back in. He's working more with the number 2 line, but still he needs to get those reps. And we know how valuable Andrus Peat is. He's able to play left guard and left tackle, and we've known a little bit too much about that for the Saints' liking, I'm sure, where he's had to kick out from left guard to play left tackle when Teron Armstead has been injured. But getting him back on the field and getting him back into football shape and getting used to wearing the pads, that's what the Saints need to do, and that's what they're working toward.
Head coach Sean Payton did talk after practice today and gave us kind of a detailed update on what they're doing in this current stage of Andrus Peat's recovery and a return to full go.
Team drills yesterday, 2 and 3 snaps. Today, we kind of, there's a term, we kind of ramp them up. So each day we gradually increase the load, and then we'll back off a day and then do the same. But he's doing well. He's on schedule, and we'll get a chance to look at the film. It's good to have him back out here taking reps with the first group.
Another thing that we noticed today on this Sunday at practice was perhaps the next chapter in the kick return evaluation. That position's still pretty much a wide open affair. Last week in the first preseason game, we watched Boston Scott and Brandon Tate get their chance. Today, John, or actually this weekend, I should say, it looks like there's another wave of guys getting a closer look.
Yeah, Natrell Jamerson, also Josh Huff, and Shane Vereen. That looks like it's going to be the next 3 guys to get reps. And look, Coach Payton said yesterday, referring to Brandon Tate, he needs to be a returner to make this team, not necessarily a receiver, a returner. So that tells you the emphasis that's being placed on that position. So those guys have a chance to make the team strictly as returners.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach Payton reiterated this process is a long way from being over.
We're not even halfway through camp yet. We played 1 preseason game, so we've got hopefully a lot of return opportunities to where it's clear to all of us. But right now it's early. These guys are working on it, and we'll keep looking.
John, did any other plays stick out to you in practice today?
Well, Michael Thomas continues to impress. He makes a toe tap catch, a fabulous catch by him. We also saw some nice defensive plays. Arthur Millette continues to make play after play after play. We saw also some great plays in the end zone by the defense. I mean, these guys are really flying around, again, making plays.
Saints starting quarterback Drew Brees, who did not play a snap in preseason game number 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think, John, all of us expected that. It remains to be seen whether he'll play at home on Friday night against the Cardinals. Last year, he did not play in either of the first 2 preseason games, but Johnny has in the past. I think it's still up for debate whether we'll see him on a game field this week.
It wouldn't shock me because Tom Savage and Taysom Hill need the reps. They need the snaps with the first, second, third team. It doesn't matter. They need those snaps to get a little bit more familiar with this offense. We know Drew Brees wants to take every snap, but he does not necessarily need those snaps. So it wouldn't shock me if he didn't play, but it also wouldn't shock me if he went out for a couple of series.
And we'll see. Brees was asked today what his thought process is on what he needs to do or not do with regard to these preseason games. Ultimately, in some ways, it's not even his own decision.
I think you look at it and it's, okay, it's risk reward, right? Obviously, you know, it's important for me to get some reps in the preseason, and it's really just a matter of how many. I feel like getting some work in the second preseason game and the third preseason game prepares me plenty for the regular season. We got a lot of other guys that we're trying to get work, right? It's good that Taysom Hill gets a lot of reps, right? As we develop him. It's good that Tom Savage gets a familiarity and comfort level with this offense and these guys. It's important that JT Barrett gets some time. And I think just in the big picture, you know, it's for those guys to be able to step in and run the huddle and do the things that's required of the quarterback position. So for me, what do I need to do to get ready to play for the regular season? I'm going to make sure I get that done out here and with preseason. And the rest of it is developing young players.
I think you and I would both agree that this was probably the most physical stretch of camp thus far. These last 2 days outside here at the Oyster Sports Performance Center.
Yeah, and I think they realized they probably needed it. Didn't have a lot of physicality going into that preseason opener against Jacksonville. Maybe they saw some things on film that they didn't like in terms of physicality and were able to come out here and hopefully shore up those holes.
For John DeShazier, I'm Sean Kelley. We'll see you right back here tomorrow for another edition of the Saints Training Camp Report.